What if you and your significant other share a profession? Is this a recipe for success or one for complete failure? And what if this profession is art? We are Fallon's Daily Toast, and this is Fallon Lee O'Brien.
Hey everyone.
And I'm Jessa DeMora, and we're here to interview several artists about how they make this work out. Or maybe they even don't. So this series of conversations came about because Jeannie Motherwell, who's an artist here in Somerville, who has a studio at Joy Street Studios, and her husband Jim Banks are both artists. Jeannie got a grant from the Somerville Arts Council competition earlier this year, and she had a part of it which was the public component, and so we thought, well, we could talk about some issues that were common to couples who are artists, and that would be interesting. So here is Cortney Leigh Cox, and here is Skunk. Cortney is a multimedia artist and has a studio in
Chinatown.
Yes. And also I see her at Artisans Asylum, where I hang out.
Yes.
And part of the reason she's there is because of this person here, Skunk. Skunk is the TIG welding lead at Artisans Asylum, and he's also a sculptor, and he has a bicycle gang, a nerdy bicycle gang called Skull, and they are partners in crime, and sometimes they're not. How does this work?
Fantastically.
I'd have to agree. I think it's very useful having a partner who can relate to what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm. That's because you both share the lingo. You know the same subjects. You don't have to explain stuff to each other.
And yet we don't. There's enough of an overlap where we have a common ground, but then we have completely different mediums and process. I think it works very nicely working with someone who understands what you're doing but does it completely differently.
The struggle's the same, the product that you make is different. So,
how much do you share about the things that are difficult?
I'd say a lot.
Yeah.
I think that Skunk tends to have a little bit more experience with getting his work out there, with marketing, with website and galleries, and he is a really valuable resource for me because I make a lot of work, but I don't always work to show that to people. And so I like the fact that he's able to strengthen some of my weaknesses.
Are there any challenges that come along with being a couple that are both, in the arts?
That's a tough one.
Well,
I've been trying to think of challenges, but maybe you've got one.
Well, one of the things I think is a challenge is we want to be near each other, and we have two totally different workspaces. So he's working in Artisans Asylum. There's all kinds of tools and equipment there that are great, huge amount of dust. I do a lot of painting and adhesive work, and if there's dust that lays on it, that's a very bad thing. And I've thought about getting a space at the asylum because that would benefit us, but it's just not practical for me. So it's hard sometimes when you want to be with that person as much as you can, but you also are torn between wanting to be with your work and doing your work and making time for both.
What happens when you have a power dynamic between artists? I mean, there is this possibility of working together, but then there's also the possibility of having some conflict.
What kind of conflict are you thinking about? Is it like a career path
Well,
level?
either career path, or one person's more well known than the other, and the other perhaps can find this a little bit difficult to cope with.
Yeah.
One person can find themselves in the shadow of the other person.
I think because our work is so different, it's not like we're being compared to each other. And so I think it's just different audiences. Also, I tend to be my idea of how I'm going to feel accomplishment as an artist has changed, and maybe not be the same as other people. I'm not so much concerned about being well known, and so I'm more concerned about the work and what I'm able to express in the work. And I would definitely say more people are aware of him and his work, and that doesn't bother me. But I could see how that would bother, there would be a kind of competitive angle with other couples.
Do you have anything you contribute to this that is your specialty? You've talked about his marketing specialty, but what about yours?
I think that our work style is, you'd probably actually explain this better than
It's
better
hard to
than
talk
me.
about yourself,
But,
what you bring to the
but
table.
he is results-driven art. So he really likes to produce a lot. He's not afraid of taking chances. He's not afraid of making mistakes. And I tend to be slower, more thoughtful in what I'm doing. I kind of brood over decisions. And I think that either of those spectrums are probably not good in an extreme, but having each other balance those out works out really well. So I think for him, I may give him a perspective on some of his work, take the time out to look at certain details and certain parts that he might not have seen before. And I think that, I guess, there's other aspects of our work that I think that I help with him, and it's kind of just gathering materials and taking things apart and kind of the process of it.
So you can provide a critique for him of things he does.
Oh, very much so, yeah, very valuable. She's got a keen eye. She knows about process. She can have a really intelligent conversation about what I'm doing and why, what we're doing and why. One of the things that Cortney reminded me of that I kind of lost track on when I decided to become an artist with a capital A and to go, be successful, I felt like that inherently means selling your art and to get your name out. In order to support yourself as an artist, you can make money as an artist. But Cortney is not as concerned about that as I am, and it's also moved me in a direction where I had started making art that wasn't necessarily for a market, just to explore and to try out new things. If it wasn't for Cortney, there would be no color in my art, and now I've been doing all kinds of experimentation with new stuff. I just recently started acrylic painting. I've never done that in my whole life, and I'm thrilled about it.
You're taking an acrylic painting course.
No, I'm just watching a lot of YouTube videos and listening to what Cortney has for feedback, and I've been doing portraits of some of my robots, and they're going to be kind of together as a set, and it's just so thrilling because when I was in high school, I was just completely frustrated with paint. And it was mostly because of watercolors and how unforgiving watercolor can be. You could just really mess it up and make mud. I just made a lot of mud. But now I'm having so much fun, and I don't really care whether these are going to sell or not, or if they have a value outside of my own house. I'm happy to show them, but I'm just having the time of my life with some new things that I wouldn't have tried otherwise.
So she's provided you with inspiration.
And color.
Absolutely.
Speaking of color,
Yeah.
that is
And sound.
the sound.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
I love the
beautiful.
sound. That's sitting on your desk. Every time you budge, it makes that sound. And it's so pleasant to have that be the kind of the sound that makes the sound of action. When you're typing or your cat jumps on the table, it just makes that sound. It's really cool.
And can we bring those guys forward? And
Absolutely.
oh God.
So this is one of my more like what I normally would be doing. This is Wanma. Look at the camera, Wanma. He's a little shy. So making junk metal sculpture out of discarded machinery and a lot of bicycle parts, because that's kind of where my background is, into a human form that has hopefully some kind of emotion and some kind of feeling to him. Not like a stoic robot from the 50s, but something that seems like if you found the switch, you could turn him on and maybe he'd have a story to tell you.
And you could maybe make friends.
Yeah. So this is a very traditional thing that I would be building if I wasn't hanging out with Cortney. But then Christmas time came along, and I thought it would be really cool to give her a present where we collaborate and make a robot together. And hold on, and Otto came out, and he's an extremely heavy little robot that just would probably put holes in your coffee table if you roll them along. And so Cortney picked the parts, we picked them together, but she had the final say-so, and then I welded it together, and we gave it a name. And this was the first robot that started a custom Astrobot program for other people. I'm not much of a collaborator. Usually I like to work by myself. I work really fast. And you know, I like input after the fact is done because of my process, like results-driven mentality, and keep going with stuff and not really scratching my head too much. But I really loved this guy, and I love the direction that it's taken me. So now I have the thing where a client comes, they say, I want a particular class of Astrobot or Astrodroid, and then they come with me, and like a kid in a candy shop, we pull out all the little metal bits, lay them on the floor, take a picture. I show a little bit of the welding process, and then a little while later, they've got the baby and take it home.
So that came out of...
That came directly
my
out of
Christmas
our
present.
collaboration. The Christmas present, yeah.
And is there a matching thing in reverse? Has he inspired
Not
any
yet.
with
Not
that?
yet.
Well, we've done some collaboration on some pieces.
We have done collaboration, yes.
And I get great Christmas presents.
Yes.
Yeah, very beautiful little.
And have you ever thought of doing a larger collaboration or more, larger collaboration?
All the time. I mean, you know, canopy bed that we're working on together. I tend not to go too big with scale just because I'm tired of making art that's potentially could kill me. But if maybe more detailed or bigger stuff. But I kind of feel like Cortney and I live and breathe this stuff, so it's a very blurry line between what we're doing. Even a walk in the woods is like research. You know, where we're
So that brings up another question that I was going to ask, which is, you know, separating on art life and the rest of
real life.
No, not real life. There are a number of artist couples who feel like they can talk together and work together on some sort of project, and then there's home life. You know, keep it separate so that there's no discord or no hangover from the efforts that it takes to do a work life. And I'm taking.
It would be like taking pee out of the pool. You just can't do it. It's already blended.
That's a good analogy. I love it. I'm going to steal that one.
All right, I think I've stolen it from someone else. Not about art, but
Yeah.
And what's this little cube?
That is a magic puzzle cube.
Magic puzzle cube.
It's a Rubik's
Yes.
Cube.
Wow.
It actually looks best when it's a little bit messed up, but I don't know. He's really good at Rubik's Cubes. And so I snatched this one up because I wanted to mess around with some color patterns and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea of making objects that are, I guess they're just art objects. They're not, I wouldn't necessarily classify this stuff in the same realm as some of my other artwork, but I like the idea of people having an artistically inspired object that they can really touch and hold, carry around with them, and it's not just like this sacred thing on the wall that you can't touch, you just got to look at and don't cross the line because the alarm will buzz kind of thing. So
I can't take my hands off this thing.
And how did the two of you meet? How did they meet their first meeting?
we met the way, I don't know, modern day life, online dating, you know, it's just.
So, do you have any recommendations for other artist couples?
Do you think they need it?
Some people have, you know,
How do you
difficulty
deal
doing
with that?
this.
I don't know. It just seems to click. It makes a lot of sense to have someone who is passionate about what you're doing and support it. You know, dating an artist is fantastic. Dating a supportive artist is even better, because there are a lot of artists out there that are very discouraged about the art career and the art world. And they, you know, I've been there, I've done that. It's hard. It's amazingly difficult to be successful at this. And that kind of stuff at home base can really wear you down and make you feel discouraged. And Cortney has been nothing but supportive about it and encouraging. I don't really feel like there's a lot of effort on our parts to make sure we have our own space. It just kind of, I definitely shoot from the hip and just say what I want. And I'm very candid about my needs. But I think that, yeah, I don't really think that there's a ton of like effort that needs to be made to defend my space as an artist or anything. And Courtney's, I mean, I don't know if it goes without saying or not, but she's super supportive about helping me out in all kinds of ways. A lot like so many other people.
Well, before we end, what do you both have coming up?
What do we have coming
Yeah,
up?
do you have any shows coming up or anything you wanted to talk about?
I got a gallery that I started a little while ago at the Artisans Asylum, a micro gallery called the Ready Room. And we had some shows, and it was really fun. And then life gets in the way, and all kinds of things. Like Skull just turned, or my gang just turned 20 last Saturday, so there's been a lot of prep for that. And so anyway, we moved, and we're kind of going through some renovation, and soon we're going to reopen that and have some cool shows. And I'm going to debut some of my paintings there too, so that's pretty exciting. But stay tuned for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
To be determined.
All right.
Shelves are being
And
built.
you? And you?
I am working on artifacts from the future, so when they're complete, maybe they'll pop up somewhere. I don't know.